I'm exhausted, says Riddis. She certainly looks it. Bruno is silent and looks deep in thought. As you head into the village after your friends, another headache splits your skull. This place. Something about it is triggering a memory that feels like it's trying to claw its way out of your brain. Let's rest up at the inn, suggests Melanie, taking in everyone's state. This island is doomed, she says, knowing of the eruption. Her face exudes happiness, as if she has been freed. At dinner time, you and your friends gather around the table. For a while, it's quiet, but then Melanie speaks up. Now that the dragon's been defeated, she says, what are we going to do? In truth, the Ivory Order wanted to capture the dragon alive, but Sherwin killed him. You can't help feeling the Ivory Order is still hiding something about this island, the dragon and the medicine. We might want to look into this island a bit more, suggests Melanie. Bruno agrees with you. They call this place Mount Medica. Something tells me there are still secrets to uncover. Whether you go after the Ivory Order or investigate the island, first and foremost, you need information. The Overseer should be pretty knowledgeable about the island, reasons Melanie. You decide to pay a visit to the Overseer after a good night's rest. Sulphur, the village headman come overseer, comes out to welcome you. After detailing what happened atop the volcano, you ask him to tell you everything he knows about this island. So, the dragon's tears are the medicine's main ingredient, he muses. You ask Selfor if the medicine is made on this island. After a moment, he begins speaking in a quiet voice. He tells you about the medicine factory here on the island that the Ivory Order oversees. And that this village was founded in order to provide a steady supply of human test subjects for their new medicine. Now that you know the truth about the island and the village, you turn to Selfor and pose further questions. What do you mean, testing new medicine, you ask? Selfor explains that before the Ivory Order sends any of its medicines out to the greater world, they test them here first. With all the new medicines they're constantly prescribed, the villagers here suffer strange side effects. All except Selfor, who says he's exempt from the tests on account of being in charge of the village on the Order's behalf. Probing further, you ask, and the Ivory Order forced the dragon to make medicine at that factory? I'm almost positive they did, he replies. That explains why the Order wanted to capture him, says Bruno, understanding dawning on his face. But if that's the case, why did Sherwin flout the Order and kill the dragon? You're still missing the final piece of this puzzle. Sometimes we get people who try to escape, he says, his gaze dropping. The Order always catches them. This is horrible, says Melanie, a harrowed look on her face. You know the abandoned house at the western edge of the village? Well, once upon a time, a family of 4 lived there. As Selfor speaks, you feel all the blood drain from your body. There's something I'd like to see for myself at that house, you say, your brow creased. At the uncharacteristically somber look on your face, Melanie, Rittis, and Bruno give silent nods. You stand before the dilapidated house. It looks like no one's lived here for a long, long time. You open the door and go inside, your gaze roving across the dusty space. Your eyes land on a progression of horizontal notches on the lower section of a support beam, markings to measure a child's growth. And carved into the beam beside the markings are your and Mar's names. Seeing your names unleashes a flood of memories you hadn't realized you'd kept locked away. The trauma of what happened, combined with the effects of the medicine, spurred the loss of your memories. But now you remember the horror in full detail. Sobbing, you gather Mar in your arms. Melanie, Riddis, and Bruno just stand there in silence, absorbing the truth of your origins. Melanie, who knows all too well the pain of losing your parents, turns to you with tears on her cheeks. We have a lot in common, you and I. That's how we've made it this far together, she says softly. Moved by her kindness, you give her a silent nod. But I've still got farther to go, you say, scrubbing your face dry. As painful as those memories are, something the Ivory Order disciples said gave you hope. If you can get your hands on an undiluted solution of dragon tear, you can restore Mar to her human form. And what was that about the place they called the mausoleum? That's probably a good enough place as any to start looking for dragon tear. Melanie doesn't miss the determination that blooms on your face. Whatever it is you need to do, she says, I'm with you. You ask Silfor if he's ever heard of a place called the Mausoleum. He tells you the steep cliffs north of the village block the way. To get to the mausoleum, you'll have to go around. He advises you to first go east and then head north from the wharf. The wharf, that's where we first docked, right? Clarifies Bruno. Ooh, the path to the mausoleum is a long one. If you start feeling weary on your journey, use the jump feature to return to the village. You have unfinished business. The mainland can wait. A giant boulder impedes the path. You stop, unable to go any farther. But when you turn around, who do you see but the Ivory Order trio? In a flash, you draw your weapons, but Headwind calls out, "Wait." Unlike the other times you've crossed paths, the trio doesn't seem keen on fighting you. You lower your weapons in response. Conveniently, you've got some questions for them anyway. You demand to know if what Silfor told you about this island and the village of the sick is true. There's no reason to hide it any longer, begins Hedwyn. He tells you of the immense fortune the Order amassed by selling the medicine they forced the dragon to make on this island. And he confirms recapturing the dragon was the Order's true goal. The dragon's imprisonment on this island was a secret only the upper echelons of the Order were privy to. Even Queen Nilla didn't know. You ask where Sherwin disappeared to after he killed the dragon atop the volcano. We too seek Sherwin, says Winifred. Atop the volcano, Sherwin swore to destroy that place. Hedwyn says he was talking about the mausoleum. Winifred ponders the question of why Sherwin would betray the Order and kill the dragon. Alas, we cannot get to the mausoleum with this in our way, Hedwyn says, gesturing to the giant boulder. Upon closer examination of the boulder, you see fissures spidering along its surface. Perhaps it was weakened by the earthquake caused by the volcano erupting. With the right approach, you might be able to force your way through after all. You ask Bruno to put his brawn to use and smash the boulder to smithereens. He squares off in front of the giant stone and strikes the fissure with a mighty knife-edged chop. Silence rings for a moment before the boulder crumbles to dust. The Ivory Order trio offers a curt thanks before hurrying on ahead. The jerks. lucky. Come across two men sitting on a rock. They take no notice of you or the party, but you can hear their fervent discussion. You listen in and deduce that they are a pair of thieves. You lean in, trying to hear what else the thieves are talking about. You catch pieces of the conversation here and there. Stashed the goods away. That island shaped like a... right in the dragon's nostril. It sounds like they've just told you where to find their stolen loot. The dragon's nostril? You cock your head in disbelief, but just manage to maintain your concentration. Your perseverance pays off. You come to learn that the island itself is shaped not unlike the dragon's head. You hastily grab a scrap of paper, write down what you've heard, and quietly sneak away. Don't hold back. Nice work. Spot a sign standing prominently on the cape. This sign reads, "Strike the Steelers somewhere on this island." Oh yeah? What will happen if you do, you wonder? Nice work. up speed. A tornado is forming. You anticipate the tornado's path correctly and avoid getting swept up. Not even a rock climber could get up those steep cliffs. Don't hold back. Oh? No climbing. Fortune favors the bold. I was lucky. Let's do this. And fight. About the enemy. Oh? I was lucky. Excellent. There is nothing you need to buy, so you pass by without paying it any mind. lucky. Pick up a scrap of paper dropped by some manner of monster. It has a message scrawled on it in crude lettering. Clearly, whoever dropped this message did not want to forget where the stolen treasure is hidden. You stash the scrap of paper in your pack and resolve to keep an eye out for the treasure on your travels. Spy a rather large number of monster prints on the ground. A wry smile plays across your lips as you remove the scrap of paper from your pack. You pluck the monster's note, which you picked up just west of the sign pointing you to the mausoleum, from your pack. After scouring the area for a bit, you find a chest hidden in a shady spot behind a rock. The scrap of paper tells no lies. You greedily open the chest. Found a stela. You try gently knocking on it, as if to test its solidity. You swear you feel a rumble coming from the east. bizarre rock transformed into a treasure rock. A stela stands before you. Wasn't this a sign just a moment ago? Great. Now you're seeing things. There's a message engraved on the stela. It reads, "Those who would cross must strike me true." You see another island across the sea. Why striking a stela would allow you to cross? You haven't a clue. You give the stela a solid thwack. Not a moment later, the entire party begins to levitate. Before you know it, the strange power delivers everyone safely to the far island. Without warning, an old man leaps from the underbrush. "My replacement," he screeches. He sidles up to you. "Mind living on this here island in my stead?" he offers cloyingly. "Ew, no," you sneer. "Then by force it is," he shouts, leaping toward you. Let's do this. Fortune favors the bold. This island is cursed, the hermit explains, and he along with it, doomed to spend eternity here unless he finds someone to take his place. Defeated, the old hermit sinks wordlessly to his knees. A lone tear tumbles down his weathered cheek. Monsters suddenly appear from who knows where. They surround the dejected old man and let out bitter cries of lament. "Come to console me, have you?" he says sweetly, petting each of them gently. He quietly nods, rises to his feet, and makes his way to you. The island gets as lonely as I do. Someone's got to keep her company. "You had better leave," the hermit says softly, handing you a garment that glows with an almost divine light. You feel yourself begin to levitate once more. Has he chosen to remain on the island after all? Is that what this is about? The party finds themselves back on the cape. The stela that once rose from the sand is nowhere to be found. You turn your gaze toward the hazy, solitary island in the distance. "Farewell," you say quietly into the wind.